guys, so the Israel-Palestinian, now Lebanon conflict, could it have impacted one professional's career? We're going to talk about that today. All right, so oftentimes I'm brought in as a expert witness for certain cases related to litigation within the pharmaceutical industry. And I had one particular case that I worked on in the last year. And actually, the case was related tangentially to what's happening in the Middle East with this whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict that, of course, everyone knows about, ensued October 7th. And so what happened? So we had a situation where there was an individual, and this individual was in the commercial arm of the pharmaceutical industry. And they had a manager who was in this position managing them, who had, by background, was of Muslim origin. And I guess, according to this individual who was terminated from the company, who was of a Jewish background, had indicated or insinuated that when the manager who was Muslim, found out that this Jewish professional working in the industry was Jewish, that he targeted him and that he terminated him, and he terminated him because of his religion and because he was pro-Israeli. And according to him, the Muslim was pro-Palestinian. And so there was a tension that ensued. Now, the company and the manager indicated that this individual was terminated, not because they were Jewish, but because they had violated a regulation around compliance and interacting with healthcare providers. So I was brought in to evaluate the situation and determine, is it really a situation where this person was terminated wrongfully, or is it a situation where this is someone that should have been terminated because they were non-compliant? Now, I'm not going to, of course, get into details of the case because this is confidential. But what I will say, what I learned from this situation really is the importance of having within the company, within this pharmaceutical company, is SOPs and processes, a clear set of expectations and standards for all of the people that interact with healthcare providers. And that was missing. If you've watched my other videos, you know that the main folks that interact with healthcare providers are the pharmaceutical sales reps and medical science liaisons. There's also other field teams like health economic outcomes research liaisons, field reimbursement specialists, key account managers, depending on what they do and their focus. But my point is this: if they had a clear expectation that was level set across the organization, that was uniform, that everybody had to meet, regardless of whether you're a rep in China, you're a rep in Germany, you're a rep in New York, you're an MSL in Lebanon, you're an MSL in California, everybody within the company has to meet these minimum standards of competency around regulatory compliance, clinical trial design, evidence-based medicine, interacting with healthcare providers compliantly, whatever it is related to your effectiveness and related to your ability to be compliant. If the company had this in place, this would have been, to me, a very black and white situation. It would have been very clear that this individual, who was, again, Jewish by background, had either violated or not violated the company's rules. But here's the problem. The problem is that the company really didn't have anything in place. They had abided by Pharma code, and everybody has to do Pharma code. Remember, that's the voluntary code that's established by the pharma trade organizations on how you interact with healthcare providers. But there was no standard that was set that said everybody has to be certified and accredited to meet these competencies to work in this role. Had that been in place, it could have potentially prevented this whole big melee. I'm not going to talk about how it turned out, but my message today is to really the folks that are listening to this that work in the pharmaceutical industry, many of you that are leaders, many of you that I talk to a lot. I talk to over hundreds of leaders probably within a month, and many of them are trying to upgrade their performance of their team. They're trying to accelerate ways to make sure ultimately that access to important medications is in patients' hands. They're trying to help enable commercials' goals, and that's all okay. But the main thing you have to ask yourself, if today you were audited as an organization, do you have something in place that says, yes, we've been vetted and validated by a third party organization? This is why I'm such a big believer and a big proponent of the work that the ACMA does, the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs, the first ever accrediting body for the pharmaceutical industry. ACMA certifies, accredits people working in pharma sales, working in the field reimbursement, patient access, patient services space, and the medical affairs MSL space. Why? The first place that the regulatory agencies, the government comes and looks, oftentimes is with the divisions that interact with healthcare providers. That's clear. We know that. I've talked to many of them. That's where they go audit. They go look at what is medical affairs doing? What are their processes? How do they hold everybody to the same level of accountability in terms of knowledge, but also in terms of compliance? So from my perspective, this, story to me further reinforces the importance of doing this. And it also reinforces the fact that today, especially, we live in a climate where we live in a very polarized society, especially in the United States, with everything going on. Republican, Democrat, pro-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, right? So we live in a situation where things are very tense, right? With the elections coming up. And oftentimes things can get muddy and misconstrued, right? In this situation, the claim is, well, due to our differences in religion, I'm being targeted. So if there's clear processes and there's clear standards in place, that really helps to streamline and smooth out a lot of those issues because it's clear what the expectations are. So I would urge you, if you're listening out there and you're working for a pharmaceutical company, if you're working either as a rep, as an MSL, a leader of medical, leader of commercial, really think about certifying and accrediting your organization. It's the wave of the future. We live today in a society where, if you think about it, we look for social proof everywhere, right? If you're going to a restaurant and you've never been to that restaurant, what do? You typically Google it. You look at the reviews. You want social proof that, hey, this restaurant is good. When you go to visit a physician, you look up the reviews if you haven't visited them before. You want that social proof. What certification and accreditation from the ACMA gives you is that recognition and that proof ultimately that your organization has gone above and beyond to make sure that you're meeting the minimum standards of competency, that you're at the industry level, that you even gone above to the gold standard in the industry to make sure your team members are interacting with healthcare providers effectively, compliantly, objectively. Really, really critical. All right, look, if you like this content, be sure to give us a thumbs up. And if you have ideas for other content, please be sure to comment below. I'll talk to you guys soon.